Welcome back. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. The Duke of Sussex says some British soldiers were not necessarily supportive of military efforts in Afghanistan. In a live-streamed interview with the trauma therapist, Dr. Gabor Mate, Prince Harry said he did not align with the West during the conflict. In his memoir, the Duke of Sussex describes killing 25 Taliban fighters in Afghanistan as chess pieces taken off the board.
One of the reasons why certainly so many people in the United Kingdom were not supportive of our troops was because they assumed that everybody that was serving was for the war.
Yeah.
But no, once you sign up, you do what you're told to do.
Yeah,
so there was a lot of us that didn't necessarily agree or disagree, but you were doing what you were trained to do. You were doing what you were sent to do.
New messages involving Matt Hancock reveal how the former health secretary battled to save his job after footage of him embracing colleague Gina Colandangelo emerged during lockdown. A string of WhatsApp messages published in the Daily Telegraph illustrate how Hancock tried to find exceptions to the rules to justify his behaviour. He initially wanted to claim no rules were broken, then decided to apologise for breaking lockdown guidance before finally tendering his resignation 2 days later. New powers to crack down on small boats crossing the Channel are expected to be announced by the government next week. The legislation is expected to make asylum claims inadmissible from those who travel to the UK on small boats. The Home Office would be required to remove those migrants to Rwanda or a safe third country, and they'd be banned from returning to the UK. Protests have broken out in several cities across Iran over the suspected poisoning of hundreds of schoolgirls in recent months. Concerned parents have taken part in anti-government demonstrations in the capital, Tehran, following an escalation in cases this week. Iran's interior minister says investigators did find suspicious samples. More than 1,000 Iranian students across 31 provinces, mostly schoolgirls, have fallen ill over the past 3 months. Fierce fighting continues in and around the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, but Russian forces have not yet taken control of it. Ukraine's armed forces say they have reinforced the area with elite units to hold off repeated attempts by the Russian army, together with the Wagner mercenary group, to surround the city. Less than 4,000 civilians remain in Bakhmut, which has seen months of intense fighting as Russia attempts to take a first major prize in a costly winter offensive. Temperatures are expected to drop below freezing next week, with snow, ice and cold winds predicted for parts of the UK. A yellow weather warnings in place for northern and eastern Scotland, as well as the northeast of England throughout Monday and Tuesday. Severe weather means affected areas are likely to experience power outages and travel delays, while some rural communities may be cut off. TV online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, the nation's favourite newspaper review show. I'm Nick Dixon and I'm joined by a diverse panel tonight. We have adult human female Cressida Wetton, and here to represent the raw meat community, it's Lewis Schaefer. Though anyone who watched Thursday's show will be hoping we don't have to see his raw meat again. Have you been watching, Cressida?
What?
Yeah, we literally saw his meat on a...
missed one. What?
Yeah. Lewis's raw meat in blood off his Twitter.
No. It wasn't what he says it is.
You put it on social media quite a lot, to be fair. So
but the audience is thinking what that means, what raw meat means.
It means meat. Basically, Cressida, you live on a boat, but you're still not the most eccentric person on the panel tonight. That's what we've learned. But let's have a look at Sunday's front pages. So the Telegraph has Hancock's plan to frighten the pants off the public. Massive story we'll be doing in a minute. The Mail goes with, make no mistake, I'll deport Channel migrants. Let's see if that happens. Sunday Times, Putin has stolen our children and health checks for staff to keep nation in work. Two quite different stories there. Sunday Mirror, Harry's new blast at Charles. Nothing new there. Sunday Express, Rishi, I'll stop migrant boats. Same story again. And finally, the Daily Star on Sunday, Ab Flab, which is a story about how a six-pack is actually bad for you, which we'll look at in a minute. So, Lewis, let's do this massive story on the Telegraph about Matt Hancock. And I'd put it under the category of sort of shocking but not surprising.
Yeah. Do you think I think this is a story or a non-story?
This is definitely a story.
No, this is a non-story.
Even this is a non-story.
This is a non-story.
It's a non-story because for 3 years we've been in a situation of fear. They're trying to make us be afraid of things. That's why. And this is just one more thing. So behind the scenes, they found that Matt Hancock had a plan to frighten the pants off of the public by releasing the newest variant of the COVID.
Yeah, and that's the headline. Hancock's plan to frighten the pants off the public.
But he wasn't planning on like actually killing people. He was just going to say there's another variant out there. He was just going to create the idea of a.
Well, he did say, when do we deploy the new variant? He sounds like Dr. Evil. Let's deploy the new variant. I mean,
Meanwhile, running around having a very nice time himself. So it's almost as though he didn't actually think we were in mortal danger.
Right, exactly. So this is my point. My point.
Make the point.
Everybody knew. Everybody knew that it was totally deliberate to create fear in the people, and the people who didn't think it was fear are not. Will they go? Oh, maybe he was trying to make us afraid. No, everybody knew.
What do you think the Hancock fans are going to make of this?
I don't think Hancock
fan.
It's quite a rude awakening, isn't it?
His girlfriend. The Hancock fan. Singular.
Yeah.
What do you think, Cressa? Because, I mean, there's so much that annoys me about this. You have Simon Case talking about how it's hilarious that people are going to be locked in hotels for quarantine. You've got Matt Hancock talking about frightening the pants off people. The whole thing is disgusting, isn't it?
It's totally. And it's so overdue, and it's almost satisfying, which is a horrible thing to say, but it's finally out.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Do you feel satisfied by this?
I don't feel satisfied by it because I was there, and I'm gonna be releasing my files from 2020, where I call the whole thing a panic and not a pandemic.
Right.
So I was there. So I've been waiting for 3 years. There's no amount of exposition is going to make up for it. I knew. I don't know if you knew, Nick. I don't know.
I didn't know on day one, and I'm embarrassed
I
at
knew.
how much I adhered to the rules in the beginning,
Really?
and how I remember. I'm embarrassed. I remember having a drink with a friend in a park, and we sat 6 feet apart, sharing a bottle of wine, and I just look back and think,
Yeah, well, I always knew it was nonsense. I adhered to the rules because I'm, not a criminal, even though I totally disagree with them, except masks, obviously, which is nonsense. Yeah. But I was talking to Mark Dolan very early about how it was nonsense on the radio, so my conscience is clear. What bothers me is, could this happen again? Because we have journalists now focusing on how Isabel Oakeshott shouldn't have been given this rather than the actual story. We have people like Kay Burley, Nick Robinson, Kathy Newman, and they should be focusing on the story. And I'm worried because you've got sort of these Twitter liberal midwits saying, oh, lockdown was still good. They still are clinging on to it. So I'm worried that it could happen again.
So you're concerned. Sorry, you're concerned about who created this, who fostered it. When the truth is, with Cressida and myself and everyone, even though I was there for the first couple of weeks, I didn't say this is ridiculous. I wanted to shout, and I didn't shout. And we all, like I said last night, which you remember, we have to admit we fell for this.
No, you do, but I actually don't.
Well,
and that's the good
this
thing.
is what I think, because I'm a better person than you. I am saying...
I'm just an idiot. I'm not a good person.
No.
In the beginning, I just thought, OK. And, you have to remember, I was working in a job I hated at the time. 3 weeks off. How tempting.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of us just wanted to go home.
Did you get furlough?
Yes, I did. Imagine that at the time.
I didn't get that.
Right.
So that's a big difference. Whether you got furlough was a big difference.
Massive sweetener.
But what did I say? What did I say yesterday? Which is,
a lot of things.
We have to learn to forgive ourselves. And I think you have to learn, because you're delightful, Cressida. You have to say to yourself...
He doesn't even know he's done anything wrong.
Yeah.
No, because I didn't. But look, you guys definitely need to forgive yourselves. But the other thing that bothers me, just lastly on this, is Boris Johnson, who, while he knew this was bad, but he did it anyway. He said things like, before the second lockdown, he said it was the height of absurdity to have a second lockdown. Then less than a week later, we had a second lockdown.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah.
The height of absurdity sums it up, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what are you saying? You're saying that Boris Johnson's a clown.
I'm saying he should have had the courage of his convictions. But anyway, let's do The Observer, and they have a couple of stories about Boris, who we were just talking about.
Well, the Tories, they haven't said he's a clown, but he's in a lot of trouble. He's gone full Trump, is what his
so it's a compliment.
Well, I thought you might think that. Yeah, he's gone full Trump in that he's now saying that the inquiry that's being carried out is completely biased. So he's saying that the inquiry is completely ridiculous. This is the Independent Commons Privileges Committee inquiry. Senior Conservatives are saying, he's just calling black is white, white is black. And because he's criticising them so much that he may have even committed contempt of Parliament. We're aware of this?
Yeah, although he says he didn't. He says he never knowingly lied in Parliament.
Yes, and that is I think that's brilliant of the guy. I've got new respect for him because he said the committee has produced a report which I believe totally vindicates me because there is no evidence that when I stood in front of the Parliament, I said anything I did not believe. So he's saying you can get away with shooting somebody if you didn't think you shot them.
OK, what about... do you think that Rishi Sunak's people are sort of out, they've been, like, memoed to go out and attack with this Trump line? It sounds like to me you've got two different people. You've got Tobias Ellwood and another minister who's not named saying he's like Trump. It feels to me, Cressida, like they've sort of gone out. And also, a side point, I think Starmer has Starmer brought in Sue Gray just to cause chaos? Because it seems to have worked.
Yeah, he's done a good job, hasn't he?
Well, I think, the thing is that I think Rishi Sunak is trying to distance himself from Boris Johnson, and he's throwing Boris Johnson under the thing. But the fear that the Labour Party has was originally to bury Brexit, which is what they used COVID to do. So they were successful.
Let's have a look at the Mail on Sunday. Speaking of Rishi Sunak, and he says he's going to stop the boats, Lewis.
Yeah, he's going to stop the boats. He's going to do what should have been done, but it's never been done, that can't be done, that won't be done, because this country, he says that he said, make no mistake. It's very, very Churchillian, I guess. I'll deport Channel migrants if they're not going to find a home here. And he wants to change the law so they won't be covered, I think, by EU kind of regulations and just say they can leave. Does Britain have the will to do it? And as a person who loves this country, or at least I say that I love this country, and I gotta say it.
You love the country. So yeah, it's the illegal migration bill. He's saying that in the past people buckled under Liberal pressure. He's going to change the rules so that we can actually deport thousands of migrants. Cressida, you live on a boat, so this is a huge interest. You're an expert.
I was born in Bristol, Nick. I think I'm allowed.
Have you been sort of flooded by attack boats?
I have fallen in the canal in January, once, and it was horrific. And I know I keep saying it, but I think about the people in these boats, and it's just. It's so unbelievably. It's just awful. Come on, Rishi. Don't make it possible for them to come here.
Right. So you're saying we can sympathise with people who obviously end up in the sea on a boat, but we should be discouraging them from coming so that doesn't happen.
That's my view.
Because a very liberal view is like, let's let them come and stuff like that. But that's a disaster, isn't it, Lewis?
I'm with Cressida. You have to feel for these people. They are coming. It's very risky. I don't think this situation is as bad as it's made out to be. But at the same time, this is our country.
The situation in terms of numbers?
He doesn't know what he means. Let's do the Star on Sunday, because this is great news.
Why did you ask me what I mean?
Great news for people who love eating food, Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
You're obsessed with the body mass index. This is for you.
This is for you, isn't it? Don't waste your time getting a six-pack. Sculpted ads are officially unhealthy. Docs warn getting ripped can shrink your willy. I don't know. I don't know about that. But a bit of extra timber will help you keep you warm and happy. The point is, aren't these abs just completely unrealistic anyway?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because men have unrealistic beauty standards put on them, right? These Hollywood stars, I'm serious, who get in that kind of shape, they all have to be on steroids, let's be very honest. They have to have, obviously, personal trainers and strict diets, but their body fat percentage is so low, their muscle mass is so unrealistic. I mean, I'm about as good as it gets, really, in the real world. And, Lewis,
I've always said it.
Lewis, you're obsessed with body fat. What do you think?
Well, you're saying that I'm on steroids, I look this good. And the answer is, this guy looks amazing, really.
Well, you are a movie star. I mean, you're an extra.
Shh. The people out there don't need to know that I'm doing that. But anyway,
Don't tell these people how I live. That was a Simpsons moment.
Because I look amazing. They think I'm a super successful person. But I'm a man of the people. I'm part of these people love me.
Apparently women are trying to get abs now as well. What do we think about that?
I think because, like you said, why the men's lower, because when you cut back on the fat, you need cholesterol to make testosterone, and women need testosterone. They need cholesterol to make estrogen. So it's going to mess you up one way or the other. And for them to say that a beer belly, this guy has the makings of type 2 diabetes, he's got fatty liver disease, this guy's going to die. But
the idea with these six-pack guys is that he hasn't got enough energy, it's unsustainable, etc.
Yes.
Well, let him decide when it's unsustainable.
Yeah, I mean, he looks good, let's be fair.
He looks good right now. Maybe he doesn't have any energy, but I am.
Let's
not
ask
gay.
Cressida. Do you think men have to have a six-pack, Cressida, or do you prefer the dad bod?
Absolutely prefer the dad bod. If you force me to choose but that's not much of a selection, is it? These two
Well, this is an extreme case on the front page.
Are they showing the picture?
I think
They're
this
not,
guy,
but
he
it's
looks vain.
basically a guy who looks like Rab C. Nesbitt. Oh, there's a picture.
I would take Gregor Fisher over that.
In that example, but that's an extreme example. OK, well, that's it for part one. But coming up, Blasphemy guidance, holy oil goes vegan, and Prince Harry's privacy tour continues. Don't go anywhere.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Nick Dixon, back for my 3rd night in a row as host. Many people are calling me the new host of Headliners. Many people on many sides. And I'm here with the brilliant Cressida Wetton, I can say her name, and our old friend Lewis Schaefer. So let's start with the Sunday Express. And Prince Harry is doing some very personal inner healing, and you can watch it for about 17 quid, Lewis.
Yeah, 17 quid. I thought you were going to say you can watch it for about 17 seconds before you get like
well, yeah, that as well.
This is in the Daily Express, that Prince Harry insists, I'm not a victim, and I'm not looking for sympathy. This is what he says. It was a live interview with Bakhmut, which is people that I know women love this guy.
I do. I'm amazed that he did this.
Yeah. And to promote his book, Spare, he's got this book, Spare, he sat down with Gabor Mate, who was a Holocaust survivor, and he's a trauma expert. And he said his father didn't give him a hug. And I'm going to tell you something. This story is one of the most tragic stories out there, because here is Prince Harry, who has basically been created to be a weapon of revenge by his mother to punish his father. And this is so sad because his father, who did a very bad thing to his mother, and his mother never forgave him, and set what do they call that? One of those time bomb, okay, to detonate against Prince Charles for having a relationship with another woman.
Sorry, have I got this right? You're saying Diana planned this, but she didn't stop Charles being affectionate to his children?
Well, no, he didn't. And we don't know, and those people are not very obviously affectionate, but they've never been affectionate. So you can't say that the average British father, the average parent in this country is a horrible parent. I've seen it.
Can we send Lewis back? Can we get one of those boats for him?
I'm not talking about the mother of my children.
Did you not have a strict upbringing? My family was great, but my dad's from Doncaster, and I always say, his catchphrase was, "Come on, we're not here to have fun."
Yeah.
I don't know whether Prince Charles, but my dad hugged me.
Sounds like Lee Anderson. I like that idea that you're tough.
You think he hugged you? He didn't hug you.
He did hug me. But anyway, back to the
story. What bothers me about the story? Harry says, I'm not a victim, I'm not looking for sympathy. What would it look like if he was a victim looking for sympathy? I mean, what would he do? Because he's already putting his therapy on the internet.
But you know what?
It's extraordinary, isn't it? By the way, do you know that there's this person in this story who's a reputation and crisis management expert. And I just wondered if this guy had a website that anybody here might want to... It's an interesting career, isn't it?
But do you think he's managed this crisis very well, of Harry?
No, I don't. I think this brings up the question of, can you ever really get over your stuff? You know, like, we've all got this idea we can go to therapy and we can tell them all our problems, but don't you think at the end of it, you're still yourself... You're American, you're into therapy. Do you believe in it?
No,
I feel like Harry's just cursed now. Like, he's got the best guy in the world to talk to.
Yeah, he's doing his best to get over it.
Sorry.
No, that is the thing. Harry had a real trauma, and that was... I think we could all sympathise with that aspect. Everything he's done since is questionable. What about the fact, just briefly, that the Mate is actually quite a controversial political figure? He said that Hamas were heroes. He sort of got some... He said he downplayed anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. He's got some pretty far-left beliefs, hasn't he?
Well, do you know, I'm ashamed to admit I didn't know that until I read this. And I've watched tons of his stuff. I think he's fascinating, but I didn't know that, so we all learned something.
It's so diversionary. As a Jew, they always say, the guy's whatever it is, he's anti-Israel. The point of this story is that King Charles has not handled it properly, because he should have sympathy for his own son, because his own son has lost his own independent agency.
OK, well, speaking of King Charles, let's do this one in the Metro. And holy oil has gone woke, Cressida. I mean, I'm calling it that. Vegan, really.
Well, yes, obviously, yeah. Holy oil to be used to anoint King Charles during coronation is vegan-friendly. So historically, this could have had some animal products in it. In fact, there's an old recipe here. It's come from musk deer, a civet cat, I don't know if I'm saying that right, and a sperm whale. That also sounds like one of your social media posts, doesn't it?
It does, that's perfectly... That was Queen Elizabeth. That was what hers was made from.
Right.
Versus now Charles's is made from olives and the sort of sesame and nonsense.
It's not just olives. There's jasmine, cinnamon.
I know, but it's
like
not
a shampoo.
It's not sperm oil, is it? I mean, I don't trust a monarch who's not anointed by sperm oil, personally. I mean, it's classic Charles. It's sort of tradition and Christianity mixed with a bit of kind of wokeness because of the vegan aspect. That's how I see it. Lewis, very quickly, do you have anything on this? We're not doing this on this.
Yes, I do, which is it means that anybody can go out there and get anointed with olive oil, sesame oil, rose oil, jasmine oil, and think that they're the king.
OK, that's exactly how it works. So let's do the I now. And it seems we need something called blasphemy guidance now, Lewis.
This is another horrible story. I mean, this is a real story because Suella Braverman, who sounds like a Jewish girl from Great Neck, where I'm from, she's to issue blasphemy guidelines for schools. I mean, this is 2023 that they need blasphemy guidelines following the Quran incident in West Yorkshire. And they had outlawed blasphemy in 2008, but a poor kid there, you have to feel sorry for this kid. He's an autistic boy. He's 14 years old. He lost a game of Dungeons and Dragons or World of Warcraft, some crazy game that the kids are playing. And he was basically forced to bring a Quran into school, which is, inappropriate. And then the kid supposedly dropped it or threw it on the ground. And next thing you know, it's a major international incident.
Yeah, and what was really disturbing is the police got involved and liaised with the school on that, but they didn't do anything about the death threats, except now I saw on Twitter today they'd issued words of advice to the kid giving death threats. Words of advice, like what? Don't do that? Perhaps maybe with some spelling errors in it, in the death threat, I don't know. But I mean, this is mad. Even Ash Sarkar said this was terrible, Cressida. I mean, the fact that we have to allow blasphemy guidance. I feel good that Suella's doing something, but I feel like Suella's sort of doing woke whack-a-mole. She's like, so many things she's always trying to fix every week, and nothing ever gets done.
That's exactly. There's a quote from her here. Schools answer to pupils and parents. They do not have to answer to self-appointed community activists. I will work with the Department for Education to issue new guidance spelling this out. So, yes, that's very good, but I completely agree with you. This shouldn't be happening in the first place. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of mad. We have to end up with blasphemy guidance in our schools, but maybe that's where we are.
And it's the same old thing. Teach a general theory of ethics rather than all these, like, specific don't do this and don't do that. So if we had a good theory of ethics, this wouldn't be...
Yeah, well, if we had a Christian theocracy... Anyway, never mind about that. Let's do the Sunday Telegraph. And a very disturbing story about sex education in schools. This one's very annoying, Cressida, to say the least.
Masturbation lessons and 100 genders. What our children are being taught at school. This is... It's extraordinary. I mean, at first I was laughing and then I was getting cross and then I was laughing again. This week, MPs have raised the alarm about the volume of messages they're receiving from concerned parents who say they don't know where else to turn. Surely your MP is exactly where you should turn. But anyway, so this Conservative MP, Miriam Cates, she's put together a load of evidence and she's coming to Rishi and saying, look, this is getting ridiculous. The children are being taught things they shouldn't be taught. And worse than that, the parents are feeling really excluded because there's examples of... this is a lady saying her child was taught about masturbation in their last year of primary school by teachers she barely knew. So the woman's obviously concerned. Like, this is a bit strange, isn't it, having your kid... I mean, I'm embarrassed talking about this on TV now. I'm in my 30s. My dad will be horrified. But at least he knows what's going on. So these parents aren't... They're being told, like, what happens in the room stays in the room. I mean,
yeah, that's incredibly disturbing. And inevitably Stonewall are involved. And there's this School of Sexuality Education. And they have this book about great relationships and sex education. And it says things like, emphasise that love and affection are often important parts of good sex, but not always. For others, good sex is quick, rough and anonymous. And this is being taught to children.
That's unbelievable.
It's so sick. And there's a part for 9-year-olds where they've got this book that teaches about identity, assigned sex, gender, love, sexuality, discrimination, privilege, allyship, pride and more. Why is this being taught to 9-year-olds? Because there's the indoctrination into political ideology, which is bad enough. Then there's a sinister aspect of teaching this stuff to children, and that's where it gets into... If I said what I really think, I'll probably be in jail. But what do you think, Lewis?
Well, the story the other day is the strip club for little babies. So if moms are taking their children to, what do you expect? That the mothers themselves believe this stuff, by and large. The country.
I'm not sure they do. There's some very upset parents.
There are a few upset parents, but generally speaking, this is not a Christian theocracy.
I feel so sorry
to be.
For the parents, for the teachers. I remember at school we did this, and one kid put his hand up and asked about, I don't know what I can say on here, about oral sex, and the teacher was just mortified.
Yeah, those were better times. I mean, and the other thing, just lastly on this. What Ofsted do is they insist that there's a certain minimum of this, that the school has to hit a minimum requirement, but there's no maximum. So the school is incentivised to have loads of this garbage. Anyway, it's disgusting. Let's do the Observer quickly and the ethically slippery slope of genome editing, Lewis.
Yeah, this is it's hard to get your head around. This is in the Observer that the UK government urged to consider changing the law to allow gene editing of embryos. And there's a citizens' jury made up of individuals affected by genetic conditions. They're hardly unbiased because they all come from, like, kids who have muscular dystrophy or cystic fibrosis or sickle cell anemia. So they want gene editing, and they're speaking in front of the 3rd International Summit, which is in London this week, of human genome editing, which is at the Crick Institute, which is filled with all sorts of different organizations which do or want to do gene editing. So you've got basically a tidal wave, and there are a tremendous amount of problems here. And it's not just about, like, making your kids look good, or not about you making. It's not like you saying, I'm going to, get gene therapy so I don't grow a beard. Let's say if you want to do that. I'll tell you what it is if they snip the wrong bit, of a gene, something bad can happen.
Well, yeah, to me, there's the ethical consideration. I mean, they're talking about things like hereditary blindness, and who is anyone to say, well, you should force someone to have blindness? But then again, it's a very slippery slope because it inevitably ends in some sort of eugenics. I mean, we already have the fact that people with Down syndrome in the womb can be terminated up to 40 weeks, much longer than someone else. So I find that quite disturbing. What do you think, Cressida? Is it dangerous?
I think it's naive to think that this won't lead to designer babies, because this is like mega bucks, isn't it? Now you can... Obviously, it's wonderful for the current medical problems. Yeah. Great, but where do you draw the line? And we shouldn't be having people picking and choosing the genes of their babies, should we?
Right. All right, well, we've got to draw a line on that part, sadly. But coming up, why Chinese children don't all have ADHD, naughty number plates, and David Bowie was right. There is life on Mars. See you in 2.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference. And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island's story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight into it with the Sunday Times. And it turns out TikTok might not be the educational platform we all assumed, Cressida.
That's right. Why China doesn't let its kids loose on TikTok. TikTok, fantastic service that it is. It's like videos for people that can't cope with 4-minute ones on YouTube, isn't it? They're really, really fast little videos. While the West struggles to quit the powerfully addictive app, Beijing imposes strict rules on its content. So you can't use TikTok in China even though it's made...
Well, it's very different. It's what Leo's been saying on the show. I thought when Leo speaks, I just think, it's probably nonsense. But he was actually right that China has this much more educational TikTok. And like a kind of Trojan horse, they've given us the very degrading, terrible TikTok to try and sort of, as a psyop, to sort of demoralise us.
Totally. And doom scrolling. Do you know that phrase, doom scrolling?
Yes.
My friend told me this the other day, when you're in bed at night and you're just looking at more and more of these miserable videos making yourself feel worse. We all do
usually
this, right, guys?
Usually of Lewis's raw meat pictures on Twitter, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, so that's what's happening to kids, and they're ending up in rehab. I mean, it's just awful, isn't it? So this is as addictive as substances. Meanwhile, the Chinese version of this, which is called...
Douyin. Well, that's the one for kids, isn't it? I think.
Right. But this, as you said, this is educational. So it gives the examples that the West's TikTok, our TikTok, lots of, by the way, I don't understand. I don't know what a blackout challenge is, but the bread and butter of our TikTok is lip syncing and inane influencers. A blackout challenge that appeared on the app led to the asphyxiation of several children. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds horrific.
It's horrific. And in China, kids still want to be astronauts, whereas here they want to be social media stars because of things like this. And what's shocking is the Chinese one, not shocking, but their one has things like put down the phone, go to bed, you've got work tomorrow, and it prompts them if they've been on there too long. Ours in the West probably have things like don't stab anyone, maybe you are the right gender.
So what you're saying is we want to have the social rules of communist China, which is completely insane.
Of course, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, that is what you're saying. You're saying, well, we want some regulation on TikTok. Let parents regulate. And you know what? There's always been addictive things that are unbelievably addictive, that even stuff that is good for you. Like, look at me and my meat. I'm addicted to watching YouTube videos for health purposes. You can't tell me that that's bad. And I don't think we should stick our noses into it. I think eventually what's going to happen is the people are going to rebel in China, and they're going to go crazy on the American version of TikTok, and they're going to use it even more.
I love Lewis's tactic. Make up something I'm not saying and then call me insane. You sound like the people with numbers in their bio that attack me on Twitter.
I see what you're saying.
The ultimate straw man.
You think you're not revealing yourself. You want a police state because you are a Christian fundamentalist, which is the ultimate police state.
OK, I mean, even though I was against lockdowns and I'm not going to let the last person that would ever want a police state. OK, before Lewis insults me too much, let's do the Sun with a list of banned car number plates, Lewis, and try not to swear if you can.
Yeah, I'm not going to swear because I don't consider these swearing. The Sun, list of banned number plates revealed. This is every year they have to come up with new ones because there's a new letter which people will use for evil purposes to try to get past the thing. And anybody who comes to this country who looks at the number plate business and says, and people see it as a separate language, that they're so proud of themselves. Look at my number plate. It says I love God, right? It doesn't say I love God. It says I60T, whatever it is. T. It doesn't say anything like that.
There's no T's in that, but yeah.
Whatever. But you know what I mean? It's completely fixed. But people see it, and they're trying to make so there's going to be 23, and they're using 20. They're using the 2 as an A. And the 3 as a G.
It's like EA23 poo and stuff like that, or ORG 45M.
Don't interrupt me. And because this is something that really bothers me.
Completely out of control.
And in this country, if you want to buy OR64 SM, right, which stands for something, you write it out on a piece of paper. It costs £150,000. But in America, if any 8-letter of your choice, you know how much it costs in New York State to say I love God, right?
I dread to think.
Yeah, take a guess how much it's $60 for an initial fee, and then another $31 a year to come up with something that says Lewis is good.
But only one person can do that.
Yeah, so you have to come up with new things. You use your creativity.
Like an email address.
So they're not being creative with TikTok, but American license plates.
OK, well, we have to move on if it's OK with Lewis.
Oh, sorry, did I not give her a chance?
No, you told me not to interrupt. You've been interrupting all night, but it's fine, Lewis.
I didn't have anything to say on that one,
We're sending you back to America after this.
You are so judgmental.
Let's do the Telegraph. Let's do the Telegraph. It's not the Lewis Schaefer show. And is there life on Mars, Cressida?
Oh, there's definitely life on GB News. Is it a millipede or a rock? The evidence we've already found life. The evidence we've already found life on Mars. So scientists are having an argument about whether life has already been discovered on Mars because they've been looking at some fossils, and some of them are saying that looks like a spider, and other ones are saying don't be ridiculous. It's not possible. The scientists believe they have spotted fossilised sponges, corals, worms, eggs, algae, that goes on and on.
We've got some pictures here as well. You can see there, clearly there's life on Mars. There's a couple of blobs. There you go. Little tracks there they've created. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? That's a done deal. I don't know what we're looking at. Some rock. There you go.
I don't know, but they've been arguing about it.
Eggshells, apparently, I'm being told.
No, you know what it is. I'll tell you what it is.
And one was fungus.
And people out there, I'm going to say a few words. They're going to be buzzwords for people who are listening. The regular population won't know what I'm talking about. Velikovsky, Electric Universe, is that those probably look like Lichtenstein electric current marks when electricity hits something and it forms like branches that look like life forms. There might be life on Mars, but the scientists today have no clue of what is going on.
They will do those. We're gathering. You're aware of this? We're gathering more information, and it's coming back by 2033. So NASA's Perseverance rover will have some more information for us by then. But Musk is trying to get humans there by 29.
OK, well, let's see if he does it. Let's move on and do The Guardian with a story about the gladiators. Wolf was my favourite, Lewis. That's a terrible joke. I'm so sorry.
I'm not familiar with that because I wasn't living in the country at the time. Anyway, startling new evidence that reveals that gladiators fought in Roman Britain. The latest analysis of a vase found in Colchester showed that the vessel was a piece of sporting memorabilia from that area of combat, so that they were actually fighting. When was this vase found originally? 1853. So for 170 years, they've sat on this, number one. So why haven't they looked at it closer before? And the second thing, how startling is it? You know that they probably fought. Well, you know, they're Romans.
Well, the bit that annoyed me was they assumed this vase couldn't be from Britain because it was too elaborate and too high quality. I mean, who are these people? Remainers?
Yeah.
It's disgusting. What do you think, Cressida?
I think, isn't the issue that they didn't know the Romans did that sort of thing over here? Yeah. That's why it's interesting.
Yeah. They didn't know that we had that here. It turns out we did.
I don't understand how there can only be one vase. I mean, my dad used to live in Turkey. He's getting a lot of airtime tonight. And we'd go and look at the old amphitheatres and stuff, and they're massive. How could you just have the games without the rest of the equipment? Where's the theatre and the tracks and
then the interesting thing was
bones?
They found that vase was later used as a crematory holder for the dead body from 1860, and that it was a non-local male of potentially European origin. So even then, the athletes had to be imported.
Yeah, the one thing that struck me was
I thought that was quite funny.
The gladiators were known as social outcasts, but they were also celebrities.
I thought it was
sort of the Lewis Schaefers of their day, but it's fine. Lewis just talking over me now, which he told me not to do earlier.
Because I said something funny.
Well, the viewer can decide at home that maybe they'll get it in a week or two. The Observer now, with some propaganda about critical race theory, really, Cressida.
Yes.
What do you think?
Just the tip of the iceberg. Kimberly Crenshaw warns against right-wing battle over critical race theory. So the author and academic, she's complaining about some changes being made to the AP African American Studies course in the US. I don't really understand this. She's a leading voice on critical race theory, and she's warned that the right-wing battle against racial justice education not only threatens US democracy, but encourages a revival of segregationist values and policies. But the thing is, it's her stuff that's been kicked off the course.
Yes.
And conveniently, she's saying, you can't get rid of that, that will ruin the course. And what they're adding in, which I thought was more inclusive, is that the things like suggesting black conservatism as a research project. So how is that reducing?
It's mad. I mean, yes, like you say, this woman came up with critical race theory. People are starting to realise it's awful, it's racist, it's divisive, it shouldn't be taught. She's going, oh, no, if we get rid of critical race theory, that's basically segregation. What? It doesn't make any sense at all. Lewis?
Yeah. Well, she actually pointed out this is like overturning all the rights that we've had since Brown versus the Board of Education, which was the separate but equal ruling in the Supreme Court in the United States, which said you can't have separate education, which is what basically this is in favor of. It's in favor of courses for black people and courses, that don't include white
as long
people.
as they're not.
Well, that's her claim, but that's very questionable. But all right, that's it for this section then. Coming up in the final part, the most attractive people in the world, why young people are so boring, and the woman who became Russian overnight. See you in 2.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. The Independent has a woman that's woken up with the current least popular accent in the world, Lewis.
Yeah, it was bad luck for her, really. This is The Independent. I woke up with a Russian accent. I don't know how to do it. And doctors have no idea why. This is the headline of the title. As a former singer was diagnosed with foreign accent syndrome, a condition that affects around 100 people worldwide. 100 people worldwide. It's got their own little name. And so when she's from Texas, and she woke up, she had a Russian accent, and this is. This is a non-story because the woman just reeks of just being crazy. Anybody can wake up with an accent. You have a bad dream and you get an accent in your head.
This is the one time I might agree with you. It's a bit of a minor story. Yes, I'll give you that. We are in the final section. I mean, I think it might be a new weapon from Putin. Like, he just forces everyone to wake up with Russian accents. Like, you hate Russia? Why do you sound Russian? You know what I mean? That could be it. I mean, that's quite far-fetched. One bit I liked was she tried to pretend she was Ukrainian because that's the more PC thing to do at the moment. And then someone started speaking to her in Ukrainian, and then she was like, OK, I'm not Ukrainian. What do you think, Cressida?
I thought, it says here more recently her accent has switched to Ukrainian and Australian.
Yeah, those two.
Who's verifying this, by the way? Is this just her opinion of what it sounds like? Or, I don't know.
No, people are saying it to her. They're sort of laughing at her and saying, where are you from? Right. They're confronting her. She had a high-pitched voice.
I'm just very impressed that the people in Texas can hear the difference between Ukrainian and Russian with such specific...
Well, a Ukrainian can, and that's why they started speaking to her in Ukrainian.
But the people in Texas who live around her, they won't know.
It's a very international place, Texas. The funny thing is people are always asking me, how come I still have my New York accent? And in order to lose your accent, you have to, number one, you have to listen to other people's accent. And I am not listening to Dixon TV.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Number two, you've got to care. I don't care. That's why I'm going to talk like this.
I don't think you have to care. I find it very difficult not to, if I'm talking to somebody with an accent, I want to... in my house as kids, like, we were mimics, we'd do accents and stuff, and it's not the done thing these days. You should not... It's not a strength, Cressida.
Right.
Yeah, I miss having my really northern accent. Anyway, let's do the Sun. And the Sun has the 50 most attractive nationalities and what each look like. I doubt this is going to be controversial at all, Cressida.
The 50 most attractive nationalities revealed. India's #1, USA comes second, and Britain has the most handsome men.
Thank you very much.
While AI images show beautiful people in each country. Well, Kimberly Crenshaw won't like this. I mean, this doesn't sound good, does it?
Do we have some of them? Apparently, we're going to look at some of them and... well, someone said we should guess where they're from, but I'm not totally sure that's a great idea. So I don't know where that one's from. What do you think?
Oh, God, I don't know.
This is India, apparently, and they won. They were the most attractive in the world.
She's very attractive.
They're
beautiful. But they're not real people, they're AI, so...
I know, I've got to fake it because I saw this before.
That's Canada, I reckon.
It's kind of classic.
Is he good?
Oh, it's Australia.
Okay. Find him attractive.
Decent guess for me.
Can we ask the woman whether they find it attractive?
Well, they're just AIs, really, so...
This is the problem. They're not real.
Where's that one?
I don't know.
That's Brazil.
Okay.
That's Brazil.
Okay. Brazil's a very sexy place.
Where's this one? I think that's what?
That could be England.
That's Ukraine. So so that.
See how manly that is. It's very manly.
This is the British one.
Yeah, she looks like she's starting a fight in the chip shop.
They're all just very young, aren't they? They're very model-like people.
And he's the English one, right?
Yeah. And what's amazing is that as you say, Cressida, the men were the most attractive in the UK, USA a mere 4th. I'm so sorry, Lewis. Yeah. And more importantly, in the overall chart, UK was 16th and Germany... Oh, no, so UK was 12th, Germany 13th. Sorry, Germany. I mean, it's 2 World Wars, 1 World Cup, and now, whatever this is, the most attractive. I'm sorry to say it, we won again.
Well, the AI gave me a very good review for my show at the Ivy House. And I asked, why should I go see Louis Schaefer's show? And they said, because I was very provocative and interesting.
How relevant to the story.
So whatever the AI does is fine.
All right, well, let's do the Times then. And they have more evidence that young people are getting a bit boring, Cressida.
They do. Snoring 20s, sober young, shun drink and drugs. Isn't that sad? Young people aren't getting drunk. They're not having any fun. Most teenage school students are virgins who abstain from drinking and smoking, a government survey has revealed. I mean, get off TikTok, guys. This is the result, isn't it? Kids need to intermingle and get to know each other, and then the guys need the challenge of chatting up the girls, and then they get their testosterone hit properly and naturally, and all this, instead of sitting in your room watching...
Oh, you're blaming the guys?
No, I'm blaming the lack of interaction.
And who do you blame for that? The women are on Tinder. They're going out with these guys, these international men.
I promise you, they're not.
They're going out with some Indian guy because he's number one.
TikTok. I think they need to mix. I think people need people, and what they're craving when they're on TikTok, what they're missing is connection. And now they don't even know how to connect anymore.
Right. So you're blaming the Chinese people. I tell you something, Cressida. You're wrong and.
Yeah, Cressida, famous wrong.
Seen. Finally understands me.
What I find surprising about this, in a way, is that we had this sex education story. They're trying to push sort of all that on young children. And in reality, is they're not even having sex, they're not drinking, they're not doing anything. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it seems totally out of touch.
It's
because you know what happens when you drink and have sex? You get married and you have 2 kids and you have a divorce and you're left in a foreign country, thousands of miles away from home, and your career is dead.
All right, well, maybe we should finish with this one then. The Daily Star, and they have clear evidence of the Queen's ghost, Lewis.
Oh, well, this is sweet. This is sweet. Sarah Ferguson is convinced that the Queen's ghost is appearing to corgis, to the Queen's corgis, who bark at nothing. There's nothing out there for them to bark at, but the corgis, who are the Queen's, in some way, the corgis were given to the Duchess of York. People forget the Duchess of York, but she had the really bad luck of being married to Prince Andrew. Or you could say it was good luck because she's got 2 beautiful children, you know, Beatrice and the other.
And 2 dogs. Who,
and now
good for her for adopt, don't shop, is what I say. I'm a big fan of rescue dogs.
Yeah.
If they're royal, they needed to be rehomed. Do you think it's possible that dogs, given that they've got a fantastic sense of smell, they just know about something in the area that Fergie isn't aware of?
Oh, so you think it's real?
Yeah, I wondered about this. First, I thought, is it sort of vaguely disrespectful? Then I thought, is this sort of people missing the Queen? Apart from these dogs, we all miss the Queen. You know, or are these dogs are they getting old? Are they blind? Are they barking at nothing? Or is it the
Ferguson needs some airtime?
Or is it the Queen's ghost? That's the other option.
Cressida won. Because it's this woman, is Sarah Ferguson, who struck me as a fun girl, but she was completely derided for getting a divorce from Prince Andrew right after what's her name got a divorce, or before, or one of these things.
This is just an official royal history from Lewis Schaefer.
Is it someone in the royal family or someone we know?
Well, I think
Lewis's lipids drop towards the end of the show, and it all gets a bit.
Next time we're on the show, you bring in your lipid panel.
We've got 10 seconds left. Anything you want to say, Cressida or Lewis? Anything? I almost dread to ask Lewis.
Yeah. Anything that I want to say? I think Princess Diana.
Not that again. Let's do the papers. I'm sorry, you've been cut off by the producer, Lewis, just because they heard the first word. All right, that's the show, but let's have a quick look at Sunday's front pages again. So, the Sunday Telegraph, Hancock's plan to frighten the pants off the public. That very frustrating story. The Mail on Sunday, make no mistake, I'll deport channel migrants, which was Rishi. The Sunday Times, Putin has stolen our children, and health checks for staff to keep nation in work. The Sunday Mirror has Harry's new blast at Charles. Classic Harry. The Sunday Express, Rishi, I'll stop migrant boats. And finally, the Daily Star on Sunday, Ab Flab, which is a story about how six-packs are bad for your health and it's good to have a beer belly. So that's our show. Thanks to Lewis and Cressida. You can catch us tomorrow. I'm actually not here, but someone else will be here at 11 p.m. And if you're watching the 5am repeat, it's breakfast next.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.